Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I think even those who aren't reporting to be in a state of shock are in a state of shock. Political assassinations have fortunately become reasonably rare in the United States, but they are on the rise, and they've been on the rise really, we all know since when? Since January 6th. Trump, unfortunately, I think, has absolutely no understanding of what his actions that day would ultimately lead to, and by all accounts were at the beginning, not the end of this. So what I'm going to do now is I've been speaking on a few other channels and occasionally on the Discord, but I've actually been watching more than speaking because I've been interested in the reaction of the left, my side, on this. And in some cases it has been inspiring, and certainly Stephen Colbert, as brief as it was, you could tell was very serious about what he had to say and why this was a problem. I've been disheartened by the number of people online who have not, in my view, understood the severity of what we saw yesterday and why it's a problem. It leads to the question that people have been asking or talking about, am I glad he's dead? I think any answer to that can be parsed any number of ways. We had a discussion once on End Time about whether we wished Trump were dead. And I think that can come down to semantics on various feelings, but I'd like to point a number of things out that I think isn't being considered, unfortunately, and probably should be. And again, I've been sort of sitting back and watching just to sort of see what's going on. I would like to point out, well, I'll get to that in a second. This is video we've shown before, and Legal Eagle has pointed out that it's astonishing to him that this isn't played more because of what this video represents and what is happening in this video. This is a boat that was going from Venezuela to somewhere in the Caribbean. It's a short-range boat. It couldn't have made the United States. Even if it could have made the United States, it's a civilian boat, which means it would have been intercepted by the Coast Guard. It had, we believe, 10 or 11 people on board, all civilians, all unarmed. The boat itself obviously has no armor and has no weapons on board. The United States military engaged this boat. We basically assessed it as a drug smuggling boat. There's been no evidence as of yet that it was in fact smuggling drugs. Even if it was, again, it couldn't have made the U.S. coast. It was a short-range boat, as you can tell. All hands aboard were lost. All were civilian in a military strike. This is called murder. That's what it's called. It's called murder. That would make Donald J. Trump and Pete Hegseth at a minimum guilty of murder for having approved this strike. We are not at war with Venezuela. We are not at war with its citizens. Those were not military officials. The police could arrest them. And by the way, had they been arrested, had they even been able to reach the U.S., which they wouldn't have been, the Coast Guard would have interdicted them. They'd have been arrested, and the maximum fine that they'd have gotten is 25 years in prison. So for that crime, oh, apologies, sorry, I just want to make sure, and you know what, I should check and make sure that, I haven't checked the live chat yet. I want to make sure everyone can hear me. Okay, yeah. A crime that is a, not, it's a civil crime, 25 years max in prison, and they were all killed, and we still don't have any evidence that they were actually committing a crime, but it certainly wasn't against the U.S. military, and they posed no threat. This is illegal in every country. This is illegal in international. It's astonishing how illegal this is. Now, I've spoken with a number of conservatives who say, good, I'm glad. It's about time that we teach people a lesson about trying to come to the U.S. illegally. That's what they say. That's what they say about people like Abrigo Garcia, who as of yet, there's no evidence he's committed any crimes. He's finally been charged, but he was charged post hoc. It was a post hoc rationalization to make an excuse. He was actually here legally. He was here legally. He was here legally. This is not disputed by anyone in any court anywhere. He had come illegally. That's true. Then, at the age of 16, he started going through the process and was allowed to stay and work legally. But because he's got brown skin, he was deported to 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐴T, an institution that has been decried for numerous human rights violations and is one of the most terrible. It is reasonably close to. I was going to compare it to a German concentration camp. They're not actively gassing people there, so it's not quite there, but it's not far. It's not far. And he was an innocent man with a family. And we've all seen the conservatives jump with glee at sending people there. And it's angered us. It's angered me. On June 14th, 2025, a man decided he was going to assassinate 25 members of the Minnesota state legislature, all Democrats. He shot 2 of them and their spouses, killed 2. He killed former Speaker of the House, Melissa Hartman, and her husband, Mark. He was eventually caught. He was posing as a police officer. Why did he do this? He did it because he felt that his views were so superior and so important that he basically had to do it to save the country. Now, there's been political violence since the dawn of time. Shakespeare's, that's half of Shakespeare's stuff is political violence. But the idea has always been to find a way to live together peaceably, despite the fact we're going to have some pretty different ideas on how to run things. That's the idea behind the Constitution. It doesn't always work. There are absolutely flaws in it. And to those who, slavery is in the Constitution. How much more evidence do you need that it's a human document that's got faults that needs to be changed? But there are 2 ways to change it. We can have discussions and we can try to find some amicable process, or we can kill each other. Those are the options, and those are the only ones. That's it. Yesterday, hold on a sec. Let me just, all right. Yesterday, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was a right-wing influencer, a very powerful one. I said on another channel at one point that what struck me most was Donald Trump's tweet. It was, as all of Donald Trump's speech, that of a 12-year-old. That's about where his cognitive abilities lie. I don't say this to be insulting. This is as a teacher who's educated and knows how to evaluate these things, and I'm not the first one to have made this evaluation. There are professional evaluators, too, who've said the same thing. But I could see in reading the tweet that he was profoundly affected by Charlie Kirk's death. And despite all of the things I despise about Trump, and it's basically all of it, I know what it's like to lose things. He's still a human being, a rather disgusting one, with rather disgusting designs on a lot of people, and violent designs. I don't mean to excuse any of that. But the more we inflict suffering on others, the more they're going to want to inflict it back on us. There are people saying, I'm glad Charlie Kirk is dead. And there's a lot of people. It's everywhere. And I had a good friend of mine called me last night, and we talked for 2 hours, and I was about to go to sleep. My friends said, actually, there's something I got to tell you. And I was just like, okay, I think this is going to be big. This is going to be bad. Like, I'm glad he's dead. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, well, I feel bad that I feel that way. It's like, okay. Well, good news, bad news. You should feel bad that you feel glad that he's dead. But feeling glad that he's dead, that's a normal thing to feel if you're one of the groups that were persecuted by this man. And he did persecute them. He was charming, but he persecuted them. But as we put in the corner here, never let someone drag you down so much as to hate another human being. I'm not glad he's dead at all. When I saw the bullet wound, the first thing I thought of was what it must have been like to be him. You hear the shot. Now, he probably had already been hit by the time he heard the shot. The bullet traveled faster than the sound. But he probably didn't realize he had been hit. He hears the shot. It takes him a split second. He goes, I know what that is, because he knows what that is, because he's a pro-gun guy. Then he realizes he's been hit. First thing goes through his mind, can I breathe? Takes a deep breath. Probably could breathe. Probably. Says, okay, maybe there's a chance I'm going to get out of this, whatever this is. I'm obviously under attack. He falls over. Probably doesn't even think of his family. Why? Because I know I've been in situations before where my life hung by a thread. Most of us have at some point. And all you think about is how much you would give to stay alive. You're not thinking about your family. You're not thinking about it. You're thinking about, am I dying right now, and what can I do to stop it? He was a human being like everybody else, and he was on the wrong side of things. We've all been on the wrong side of things. And for those who say, well, golly gee, I'm glad he's dead, remember, you're saying the same thing that people said about these guys in the boat. Now, these guys in the boat, you could sit there and say they were innocent. We don't know. They may actually have been human traffickers, drug traffickers. They may have been at least as bad as him. Maybe not. I don't know. But we're going to sit here and call this what it is, murder, because we're trying to follow the rule of law, because it's all we've got. It is absolutely all we've got. We cannot approve ever in any way of political assassinations, because every time we do, it escalates it in the same way that when Donald Trump decides it's okay to storm the Capitol, and Republicans are like, well, we're just going to kind of sweep this under the rug. What message are you saying to sending to liberals? That they'd better get violent, because if they don't, you'll get them first. That's the message you're sending. Today, right now, the U.S. Naval Academy is locked down. There appears to be an active shooter there. There's an active shooter warning in Boston University earlier today. I don't know if it was a false alarm or not. I know there's been false alarms throughout the country. Why? I know why. Ben Shapiro has said that he is going to go on in Charlie Kirk's place. So for people who are glad that he's dead because the voice of hatred and whatever is gone, no. All you've done is empower more people to think like him. And if I've been looking at the rhetoric on both sides, the rhetoric on the right, they're talking civil war. They're talking, let the shooting start. And I know plenty of people I know personally are sitting there going, yeah, you know what, it's about time. Yeah, that's what they said the first time too. Both sides, the North and the South, thought the Civil War was going to be quick, easy, there were going to be no innocent people hurt, nobody was really going to have to suffer, and it was nothing like that. It was hell on earth for both sides. Let's not glorify the idea of there being a civil war and us finally winning our ideas by killing each other. No good can come from the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And not for nothing, we don't know, you know, he may have continued to be this horrible, bigoted person. He may have changed. I have no, none of us see all ends. I'm an atheist, so sometimes when I talk about this, people think I'm talking about some God or the way we're all interconnected. No, I don't believe in God. That's why I get real worried when we start shooting each other, because there isn't anyone who's going to come save us. It's us alone, and we either fix it together or we kill each other. That's it. Pick. So I'm not glad when somebody picks let's kill each other, even when it's a horrific human being. There's usually an alternative. Usually. I wish I could say there's never an alternative. I believe in the right to self-defense. If someone comes into your home, you or hurts your family, and you have to kill them, and that's how it goes down. It's not something you should be happy about. You shouldn't be happy about a society where that person felt they had to do that. But that's the other problem, right? We can all say, well, Adolf Hitler, we're all glad he's dead, right? Well, I'm glad Germany isn't doing what it was doing before, but was all that Adolf Hitler? He led it. But after World War I, World War II was going to come at some point, and there were other fascists that came very close to rising. It could have been someone other than him, and the reality is, once they killed him, they still hadn't, or once he killed himself, by that point, they had already stopped just about everything else that had to be stopped that was of him. Whether he was alive or dead or in a prison made no matter by the end of the war. By the time he was dead, it wouldn't have made a difference. The problem was the ideas and what he was spreading, and there was only one way to fight that at that time. Now, that's where the problem lies, because what people sit there and say is, well, the only way to deal with bigoted people like Charlie Kirk is to shoot and kill them. And the problem is it's too easy to say that. It's too easy to not think about the consequences, not only to his family, because he had 2 little girls that were watching. But the next time you get outraged at someone who's hunting Democrats, or who says that the Democrats who flee Texas should be shot for, dereliction of duty, or whatever the thing is, and we have all this outrage, you've lost the right to be outraged if you're happy that Charlie Kirk is dead. You can be happy about it. Just don't sit there and decry the other side. And when they start killing abortion doctors, because there are people there who think that liberals are committing genocide in the United States by being pro-choice. That's what they think. And if they get the idea that they're morally obligated to stop that, we've seen what happens. It's called Christian terrorism. That's the KKK. That's the far right. The more you are for violence of any kind, the more you say, I'm glad it happened, the more you are leaning into that exact same ideology. You're just justifying it from the other side of the aisle. That's all. On January 6th, there were multiple attempted political assassinations. One interests me the most, because there was one. Nobody was attempting to assassinate Donald J. Trump. But the funny thing is, if you spoke to a lot of people and said, at least liberals, and said one could be de-alived, Trump or Mike Pence, most people would have said Mike Pence. And in terms of ideology, I loathed Mike Pence far more than Trump. Mike Pence, oh my God. Oh, talk about a hateful human being who saved this country on January 6th. Because the people who wanted him dead and erected a gallows to hang him failed to find him. If they had succeeded, this government could have been overthrown. But because the right-wing nutjob survived, we're still here. It's not to say that everybody on the right can be redeemed. It's not to say it redeems him. He's not a good guy. You're not going to find me defending anything from him except that one action, for which he deserves credit and absolutely nothing else. But it is to say we're all human beings, and again, we don't know the consequences, except we know when there's mob violence and justice, the only thing that's going to come from it is innocent people are going to get hurt somewhere down the line. It may start with people who've done truly atrocious things, at least in your view, because believe me, there are as many people on the right who think you're just as guilty as you think they are. That I've seen, and I started to do this myself when we covered the show, and I stopped myself because I detested the idea of it. I didn't understand why at the time, but I understood that arguing this point of, he said there are going to be some innocent civilians killed for the Second Amendment. It's the price that you pay. And people are sitting there going, well, guess what? You're one of them. Yeah, except I didn't know much about Charlie Kirk at the time. I still don't know much about him. I've learned one thing. He was a smart guy. He wasn't stupid, which means he knew he could be one of them. And he went out and did it anyway. And my guess is, if you ask his family, would he have continued if he had known that ultimately this would happen? I'll bet you they're going to say yes. So while you can despise a lot of things about him, I believe he sincerely believed in what he was talking about. He at least had the conviction of his beliefs. And again, that doesn't redeem him, and that doesn't redeem people who do bad things. But we have those convictions too. So if we start killing people who have these convictions on the other side of the aisle, they're going to start killing us back. We cannot approve of or even be glad that it happened, because it makes every problem we have worse. As much as he made things worse by helping Trump get elected, by doing all of his death has helped none of it and has made all of it even worse. I guarantee you, we are now talking about a far right that is more pissed and more looking at their weapons saying we're going to use them than they've ever been. Anyone who thinks that that's made things better needs some serious mental health evaluation. Nothing is better today than it was yesterday. And the fact that all of these alarms are going off, that we've got active shooters and all of this other stuff just proves the point. And I sat there and read Trump's tweet. It's weird humanizing Trump. But I realized the loss for him is very real. I didn't know Charlie Kirk, and I didn't like what I did know of him. I didn't like. That doesn't mean he wasn't loved by his children, by his wife, and by 14 million followers. And they're not crazy for loving them. Most of them wanted easy answers, and that's what he gave. I get that. I've done that. I've been on the wrong side of issues. If you can take all that from him and say, no, he wasn't a human being that was loved or deserving of love. He wasn't a human being who was more scared in his life in the last few seconds of it than he probably even knew possible. And in a way that, unless you've actually been fighting for your life, you don't know what that's like. And with his children who saw it happen. And you can take all that from him and say, I am glad that he's dead. You have become what you beheld, and everything that you've accused, the worst elements of the far right of doing, you now are. That's not my opinion. It's not me even condemning or judging you. That's just a fact. You can't condemn what Trump is doing, sending innocent people. Sometimes they're guilty, usually they're innocent. Just right off the streets, vanishing them. You cannot condemn that, but be glad when it's done to the other side. Either you're for violence or you're against it. I'm not going to check the live chat or the super chats. I wasn't even going to have a live chat because I don't want to get into an argument over this. There has been a lot of discussion on the Discord, including some cheering for his death. We have permitted that, and we've permitted that because like I said, I've been watching. So as of this moment, nobody's really broken any rules, but it's going to stop, and I'm instructing the mods going forward that we're not going to permit it. And we're not going to permit it simply because I am firmly of the belief of everything I just said, which is that kind of talk is exactly that which I oppose in Trump himself and everybody he's brought into the White House. So we cannot permit that talk on our Discord, or else we are tacitly endorsing it. I am not glad he's dead. I will never be glad he's dead. And no one will make me hate him or anyone else enough to say I'm glad they're dead. All we've got is that sliver of humanity. It's okay to feel it for a minute. I get it. But then ask yourself, what are you really saying? Thank you all very much for your time. We will see you tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. That's in about 50 minutes for Downtime with Commander Lance McMillan. Whether or not we discuss the subject at all will really be up to him. I've said what I have to say on it. I know he had a few topics that he wanted to discuss. Thank you all for your time. Good night.